All right, Tuesday, as I promised, I'm going to do a DC thing today, which will probably take a lot less time because there's less to talk about. The DC announcements mostly revolved around TV stuff with a side of some cartoons and things like that. But they're big sort of what Marvel is to movies, DC is to television with the CW. Um, and that's not to say the shows are all that great. They just do well for the CW. Um, I think the big event. It's funny. This is sort of the trend for this year is that they're wrapping up Arrow, and so it's going to be the departure of Green Arrow, and we're coming up on a crisis. And for people who don't know very much about DC Comics, crisis is the DC word for hold on to your butts. A lot of characters are going to die. And there's already a lot of rumors about actors who are getting out of their contracts. There's rumors about Tom Cavanaugh, blanking on the guy who plays Cisco, but you lose Wells and Cisco in the Flash. There isn't that much reason to watch the Flash anymore, so they're gonna have to introduce some new characters that are out of sight. Good luck duplicating those guys. Cisco, you guys know I love Cisco. Arrow lost me a long time ago. Supergirl Supergirl still has a lot of untapped potential in that show. They leaned way too heavily on the illegal alien, the alien immigrant angle last season, but then they started getting into some super cute stuff with Nia Nal and Brainiac. And if you had told me I'd like Brainiac when they first introduced him, I would have told you were crazy, but he's gotten so much better. But the stuff they did with Nia Nal was legitimately cute. And the fact that she loves her costume just makes her so adorable. But, they got to be careful not to make that the show you watch to feel like a good person because, yay, they're pro-immigration and there's a trans person playing a character on Supergirl. For people who don't know, Nia Nal is trans, played by a trans actress. And like I said, she's adorable. So they gotta kind of get back to basics. Again, make a show about characters you like, fighting bad guys you don't like, kind of, sort of, punching stuff, using freeze breath, using, eye raise, all that stuff. Sure, make it kind of topical. It is sort of youth programming. But don't go so whole hog on that. For me, that's what I would like, because I really do like Melissa Benoist, and I'd like to just see stuff, with her and her sister and Martian Manhunter and all that stuff. They've managed to settle on a good supporting cast on that show, and it can lose a few people, because every show is probably going to lose a few people, and it won't fall apart, unlike Flash, which has gotten really thin of late. There's just not enough for all those people to do, which was a mistake Arrow made too. They just added too many characters and there wasn't enough for them to do. The two remaining shows, Legends of Tomorrow and Black Lightning, are different problems. They are facing different challenges with this upcoming Crisis on Infinite Earths kind of thing. With Black Lightning, I don't think they're involved at all. And I don't get that, because there's a lot of interesting things about Black Lightning, but it just feels like this completely different universe for no good reason. There's really no reason that those characters can't have interactions with the other Arrowverse characters and have it be just fine. I'm actually behind on Black Lightning because it just got so kind of, I don't know, depressing. And very kind of soaked in teenage angst in a way that I guess because it's a CW makes sense, but I was not prepared for. But then you've got Legends of Tomorrow. And the challenge for Legends of Tomorrow is not get too tied up in the crisis. They were hilarious in the crossover 2 years ago. They skipped the next one. They even had fourth wall jokes in the show itself. But Legends is hysterical, and it's stupid, and it's goofy. And apparently Brandon Routh is going to be playing Superman again in the crisis. Maybe that'll be the tie-in, and they won't include the Legends. It makes more sense for the Legends not to be involved in this stuff because they're time travelers. But they add a levity and a character voice that just makes everything better. That show is so delightfully nuts. They managed to integrate Constantine phenomenally well, pivot the show slightly, and refresh the show through the addition of a character. Whatever Legends is doing, they just have to keep doing. Silly, nuts, stupid, fun. I know I'm going to get a giggle, and feel kind of affirmed in the human condition. Unless they make it that the entire crisis was actually fanfic written by Mick Rory, which would be kind of awesome in that book that makes things come true. That would be kind of cool and yet evil at the same time. But yeah, if the only involvement they have in the Crisis crossover is Brandon Routh playing Superman, I will be personally fine with that. I don't, creatively, you don't need to touch Legends. But let's jump from Legends, and this segue will make absolute sense, to Doom Patrol, a show that many of you likely will not have seen because it was on DC's direct download service. And it was my favorite show of recent TV. It is just wonderful. I wasn't sure about including Cyborg at the beginning, but I was on board after about episode 5. The show is a breath of fresh air, and when it comes on HBO Max, I absolutely, when they launch HBO Max, it seems like there'll be enough on HBO because it's basically going to be like all the Warner Brothers stuff. It's worth watching. Now, be prepared. It is weird. It is weird. It is adult in many ways. There are some trauma triggers that may get tripped in some people. That's why I think it's good. It's amazing to me how loyally they interpreted the comic book. Because there was some stuff, and then they added stuff that wasn't in the comic book, but you're like, why wasn't Ezekiel the cockroach originally in Doom Patrol? That made a whole ton of sense. And the way they end it, for people who know the comic, you kind of know what's coming, and I won't spoil it for anybody who doesn't, because people aren't supposed to know. But there's enough gas in that show to make season 2 be just as good as season 1. And I wasn't sure they were going to leave it in a place where that was possible, but they did. They did a lot of backstory on the characters in season 1. It's one of those shows that this team gets together and you kind of find out where they all came from, and, mysteries about deep, dark pasts are revealed and stuff like that. You can never go wrong with that when it's done well. But there's enough left in these characters. There's enough development that it's almost like season 1 was like, well, we're going to get somewhat past our pasts. But that gives these characters a good jumping off point to go in completely new places. And the way they handled, the guilt that people used to feel for being gay was very good. Younger viewers may not connect to it because they didn't grow up seeing people go through that shame or experiencing that shame themselves. But they do a very good job with a man of that era going through that. I never thought I'd see Flex Mentallo on TV. They did a wonderful job with a very strange concept. And that's the thing that's so interesting. Doom Patrol was a comic made to be a comic book. in the way that Watchmen was as well, the way things are laid out on the page, the way the art was done, the way, you know, back panels and backup stories and everything were done. It was a comic that was designed to be a comic. And often when you transfer something like that to television, when you try to adapt it, it doesn't work because it was meant to be a comic. That's the problem with adapting Watchmen to a movie. You could do Watchmen better as a TV show because of that serialized format, but still, it would be hard. Doom Patrol had a similar challenge. And what was interesting is they solved it with a really interestingly relevant narrator. I almost called it system, like it's gameplay, but device. That was very self-aware and still had some of this, it's very much a comic in its DNA. And so I'm really excited for season 2. I think there's still a lot of potential left in those characters. I hope they don't dwell too much on their past anymore. I want to see them move forward. So I'm super excited about that, way more than any of the CW stuff. And if you're hyped, other than Legends, I love Legends, but if you're hyped for the CW stuff, please tell me why. This is going to be my feedback thing. I want to know why people are still like mega fans of these shows, because I kind of half watch them in the background now. They do not hold me. Perhaps they are because they're for a teen audience. I don't know. But if you're a big fan, let me know what you think of these shows. I haven't talked about the cartoons they announced because, quite frankly, I don't know enough about them. I've only watched like 6 episodes of Young Justice. I enjoy the 6 episodes I have seen, but I just haven't had enough time to get into that. So that's where I'll leave it there. Told you it was going to be a lot shorter than the Marvel one. I think I'm going to do a review of Good Omens for Patreons this week. Maybe, I don't know, because reviews don't tend to do terribly well on the public, but so I do them for patrons. But so if you want to do that, or you missed out on Boss Fight and want to get the $25 voting privileges for Boss Fight, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Once again, it's Tuesday now. It is Wednesday tomorrow. Tomorrow is the cutoff to get your surveys in, so that, and that $50 tier and higher, if you're just at the 25 and you're just doing the plot voting, don't worry, you're fine. But for $50 and up, if you want to add a myth to the list of myths to bust, get it in now, because I'm going to start compiling the list starting tomorrow, because we got to get moving on this. And then I want to get it done over the weekend, have it ready to go for Monday. So Monday's video will kick off. I'll take everybody sort of through it, so that everybody's clear on what to do. So that you can sort of see what's going on, what kind of cool stuff was added, all that stuff, make you feel like you got some bang for your buck, right? But get those in, because I need your feedback, and I can't wait anymore. Time waits for no man or woman or Princess Sparkle Muffin. Okay, thanks for watching.